Hello and welcome back to the next instalment in our video series on painting an 82nd Airborne Paratrooper from D-Day. If you are just joining us, this is a 1/10 scale resin bust, which we've prepared for assembly and painting. If you want to see the preceding steps, just watch the previous video. Last time it was the eyes, this time we'll be focusing on the face. As we mentioned previously, the painting will mainly rely on Vallejo Acrylic paints from the model colour and Panzer Aces range. With the eyes pretty much finished, we turn our attention to the flesh tones of the face. The paints used come from the Face Painting Set by Vallejo. The set has everything you'll need to get convincing results. The first paint we apply is brown sand with a touch of black red. You'll often hear painters talk about using a wet palette, but note that in this case, the paint is used from the bottle in an ordinary metal palette tray. Using a decent quality sable brush, we simply block out the colours, starting off near the brown that was applied last time surrounding the eyes. It is then just a case of working from the outside in. The paint is not highly diluted, but offers good coverage. To fill in the sections in between, more water is added to the paint and it is applied in much thinner coats. Dab on the paint or build it up gently. Because the paint is wet, it can be worked and blended carefully on the model. You end up with something like this. It looks a bit messy when applied damp, but you'll see that these paints become very effective as they begin to dry. Make sure you paint the neck area as well at this stage. With the flesh shades blocked out, it's a good idea to remove any impurities or dust that settled on the surface. A scalpel blade will do the trick. Set the face aside to dry a little and grab another shade. The slightly warmer beige red, which is a flesh mid-tone, was next, as advised in the step-by-step instructions in the pack. This shade is also coated on in very thin, moistened coats. This is done in the central area where highlights would naturally occur. The neck is a good area to start, helping you to see how the paint behaves. As you can see, this is mostly done in repeated downward brush strokes. For the face itself, start with the brow, then the bridge of the nose, followed by the cheekbones, wherever light would naturally fall as a highlight. As the camera shows, the paint is still wet and greasy and has yet to fully dry. In effect, a lot of the mixing and blending is occurring on the model's surface. Next, the lighter basic skin tone shade is used, but with a finer brush. This is effectively a much starker contrast highlight. The paint is still applied heavily diluted, but it is used much more sparingly on areas of bright highlight. You can see the furthest extremities get this shade, like here on the eyebrows. Just keep working and blending the paint before it dries. The lighter shade on the eyebrows is visible here, and the nose and nostrils get additional highlighting and blending. The earlobes and veins in the neck are also picked out in this shade. You can see us working the upper cheekbones and the ridges above the lip, using the same principle. Up until this point, the eyes have largely been untouched, and they remain surrounded in brown. To begin with, take burnt cadmium red and outline the eye where the blood vessels of the eyelid would be. Go carefully and paint over the brown at the border with the white. Mistakes can be carefully tidied up. You can also give the eyes a bloodshot appearance too at this stage, using the red colour. This shade works well with the brow to subtly frame the eye. Now it's time to paint the bags under the eyes. This is done using basic skin tone with a bit of light flesh. Carefully paint the single bag or lower lid under each eye, leaving the red surrounding the eyeball. You can leave some of the brown showing through for a shadow effect. You'll start to see some pleasing definition around the eye and the details beginning to pop. Don't neglect the shadow areas under the eyebrows. Use thin coats of the medium flesh mix here too. Over the brown it will retain a darker shadow effect. You can continue to add further highlights to any other areas that seem appropriate. You'll also notice that the flesh paint is beginning to dry. It's started to reveal the flat, blended finish we're after. At this stage the highlights seem stark, unrealistic even, but they'll be toned down in a moment. By using beige red, a medium warmth flesh tone from the set, a very thin coat or glaze can be painted over the flesh to smooth out the contrasts. Here the dampness has gone, the glaze is dry and the paint is matte with toned down highlights. This means we can mix up burnt cadmium red and black red for the mouth, as it's perfect for the lips. Next it's time for some very fine details and highlights using a mix of light flesh and white. As before, these can be toned down at a later stage using a mid-tone. Here's progress so far. Burnt cadmium is perfect to add a bit of warmth and redness to the cheeks. Apply tiny amounts of thinned paint to the cheek hollows. Add black red to darken if needed. You can also add tiny amounts of violet red for a more purplish hue. These watery coats will again help blend in all the brighter highlights beneath, the full effect being most visible as they dry. Use this mix with more of the black red around all the helmet strapping too, in fact anywhere that might be considered to be a shadow. Notice that black or dark brown can be added for the darkest shadows and also as a 5 o'clock shadow. Again, apply very thin coats to all deep shadow or stubble areas. The eyebrows are blocked out using brown and some Vallejo Game Wash sepia brown. This can also be used as another deep shadow or to delineate detail. With that done, Vallejo Panzer Aces leather belt is applied to the chin strap. Additional highlighting was done with Panzer Aces new wood. We used this colour to depict scratches and scuff marks too. Lightening still further with dark sand gave the brightest highlights for the most striking scuff marks and scratches. Finally, a wash of game colour sepia brown works really well to give a subtle sheen to the leather. The same process was used on the helmet leather straps. Burnt umber and sepia brown is also used to block out the hair. Now for our go-to military shade, Panzer Aces canvas. When you paint a lot, you end up having favourite shades, and this is a fantastic military fabric colour, which we used on the rest of the chin strapping. First it's blocked on, and any mistakes can be rectified later. When lightened with a bit of light flesh, the same shade is then applied for details and highlights. Try to depict frayed edges or stitching. We're nearing completion. Vallejo Liquid Gold Old Gold is used to paint the buckle hardware. Just bear in mind these paints are not water-based, but will require an alcohol thinner. With that done, the face is pretty much complete. As the helmet leather work was done at the same time, the face and helmet are ready for a test fitting. Next time, We'll show some of the problems and challenges we had with the uniform, and yes, some of the mistakes you might not usually see. Hopefully you're enjoying this build and paint series. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please hit subscribe, and to get notifications make sure you click the bell. We're on Twitter too, and we have a vibrant community on Google+, where you can showcase your work. And of course, you can follow us or give us a like on Facebook, which we'd really appreciate. Many thanks for watching, and bye.
Subscribe for our latest videos.